Yo! Welcome to the show, Bro Mob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Wednesday, November 20th. And Bro Mob, we've got so much to talk about today. We've got our Week 12 start and sits as usual, our sleepers, our busts, our streaming options. And we're going to cover something very important this week, Bro Mob. A little thing called the playoffs. Playoffs?
Now, do you like some playoffs?
With sunglasses. Why?
Because it's so bright and hot from my fantasy teams scorching the earth this week.
Oh, of course.
That I have to put these amazing sunglasses on indoors.
So we've been talking for the last hour, and you've been hiding those sunglasses, just waiting in anticipation to say this, to put those on and look like the Terminator.
Thank you. Well, I mean, that's a compliment, and you and I both know that.
Yes, it's always a compliment.
Thank you.
To not compliment, but rather apologize, Bro Mob, yesterday we had some terrible technical difficulties. I can't even speak. I'm having difficulties speaking. Weren't able to get the show out to you as we always do every single week. We want to sincerely apologize for that. We don't anticipate that going forward. We've had all of our issues and everything corrected. The terribleness that we had yesterday is all fixed. We're looking good, and we're looking to give you that grade A solid fantasy advice that we love to give you guys every single week going forward, especially in this most crucial of times, Brian. So, Bro Mob, we're going to get right into this show. Brian, before we get into it, who do we got on bye weeks this week?
Yeah, so here we go. All right, here we go. We got that those birds, the birds, the red ones? Cardinals. Got the Cardinals. We got those Chiefs. All right, the guy that runs around, he's got the hatchet in his hand. He's the king of the tribe, Chief. Okay, Chiefs. We got them lightning bolts. All right, Chargers. And then it's official, the official soundbite of the LA Chargers. And then we got them mean and nasty, dirty,
Nordic,
boat riding, hair wearing, paint facing Vikings.
Hair wearing? What?
Yeah.
What are they wearing hair for?
Yeah. All right. Now we go. All right. Calm down now.
Okay.
I'm gonna get my gavel. I'm gonna get the gavel out in a second.
Yeah.
All right. Now Thursday night, Bro Mob, we got we got them Colts,
the regular voice.
We got the Colts and the Texans. All right. So for bye weeks, make sure you get these guys out of your lineup because those dirty birdies, those tribe leading Chiefs, those Chargers, and those paint face hair wearing Vikings, they're gonna get you 0 points. All right. So get them out.
All right.
Don't
Some
question
solid
these
advice, Brian.
Chad. Don't even look at these
question
sunglasses.
your voice. I'm questioning your voice. I'm questioning your style. Not questioning the buys. Those are definitely happening. So it's a little too bright in that room, I can see. So, Bro Mob, we're going to get into this right away. Be sure to follow along after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast. And be sure to search that ever so valuable, lovely, beautiful hashtag Bro Mob out there. Let's get into the show. All right, Bro Mob, well, we got just a little bit of news for you this week, but as Brian was telling me a little bit ago, no news is good news. And he said it like 73 times to me, so now it's engraved in my brain. So thank you, Brian. It was very nice of you.
Math. Yes, it's math, Chad.
Nope.
Okay.
Not math.
No?
All right, let's get into this news. We got wide receiver Tyreek Hill, Bro Mob, put up a dud for us this week. Heard a lot of us that had him in that lineup, but had an MRI just to kind of determine the severity of that strain on his hamstring that he got. No news yet from that MRI, nothing coming from it yet, no talks about it. But he did appear to be trying to come back from the injury. He was out there stretching, trying to come back onto the field. And of course, the team erred on the side of caution, keeping him on the sideline, making sure they don't hurt him. So Tyreek Hill, keep an eye on this week, but it's a little optimistic that he might be back this coming week. Staying with that game, LaShawn McCoy, who sustained a concussion during the game. Of course, left the game. That's a person you want to keep an eye on because in that same game, we lost Damian Williams to injury. It's almost like, Brian, this field wasn't made for NFL players, right? People were getting hurt all over the place. We had Keenan Allen getting hurt. We had Tyreek Hill. We had almost every single player on the Chiefs offense. It seems like that was getting hurt. So basically the Darrell Williams show is what overtook everything. Darrell Williams looked pretty good, was able to do his thing. But keep an eye on LaShawn McCoy and Damian Williams this coming week because Darrell Williams could be one of those sneaky ads in the waivers coming up if they don't play.
The field looked awful.
My God,
it really didn't look good.
No,
Just,
people falling all over the place.
NFL, Mexico, be better.
No.
Give me tacos.
Nothing but walking tacos from here on out. And then finally, our last little bit. God, I want a walking taco now.
I know.
I can't even move forward.
I've been thinking about it too.
Figure out when I can make those because I want to badly buy some Fritos. Wide receiver Brandon Cooks, ladies and gentlemen, who has been out for the last couple.
Question: do you prefer a walking taco with Fritos or Doritos?
Ooh, it depends on my mood.
Nacho cheese Doritos.
I do love me some nacho cheese Doritos.
You throw the meat in there with the cheese.
Because I couldn't think of it. Cheese, nacho cheese, Doritos. Oh man, that's difficult. Because I love both of them. I think Fritos is pretty good with not walking tacos too, but I'm gonna have to go with those nacho cheese Doritos.
Are you putting Ortega hot sauce in it, or are you throwing some Tapatio in there?
Oh no, man! I have upgraded to Valentina.
Oh,
that is where it's at. Black Label, Valentina for the win. That is my new jam. I have Tapatio in the fridge. I have Cholula in the fridge. Love both of them. They get destroyed by Valentina. This is just. I'm sitting here. We're not even sponsored, Brian. But I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna talk a lot about Valentina for a moment. They are great. The flavor is great. The heat level is great. And it makes me feel so great. So I like Valentina.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on the Valentina thing, but there's something about a walking taco with Doritos. You throw the cheese in there. You got the taco meat. You throw some jalapenos up in that. Slap some lettuce in there, and then douse a little Ortega on it.
Yes.
And just call it a night.
Here's a question. Do you do fresh jalapenos or pickled?
That's a good question. So no jalapeno is the bad jalapeno. Okay.
Yes.
But I do prefer fresh jalaps over the pickled jalap.
Interesting. For the walking tacos.
Yeah, it's just the thing, It's it's a personal preference, right? What about jalap versus Serrano?
Ooh. I have been leaning towards Serranos lately. I'm falling in love with them. I never used to use them ever, but slowly becoming a Serrano guy. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I do like me some pickled jalaps. I think that's going to be my number one. But if we're talking fresh pepper, I might be leaning towards Serrano nowadays.
What about some pico and or some cilantro?
I love that this has become an absolute just talk about just walking tacos.
Walking tacos.
We've almost created a podcast
right.
about. We almost need to make a podcast about foods where we can talk about the waiver wire of hot sauces that are out there. Okay, BroMob, listen here. If you're going to go to the grocery store, this is who is available for pickup.
Right.
Cholula, the big name is there. They're always out there. Tapatio is the cheaper brand, but it'll definitely get you there. But here's what is reality. Valentina, not as well known. Definitely worth it, though. Jalapenos always sound great. There's another pepper. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more consistent in spice content. The Serrano. I love it.
Yes.
I think it's great this week.
But make sure if you're going to get a bottle of this hot sauce of the Valentina, or even if you're going Cholula, get the big bottle. Like, don't be messing around with the small little dinky bottles.
Oh, good call.
You're getting ripped off, BroMob, all right? Look for the coupes. All right? Get in there, talk to the lady that works the day shift at the grocery store. Okay?
She knows what's up.
She's got the hookups.
Oh, yeah. Get a couple samples before you leave, because
yeah.
why wouldn't you? I mean, if they have free pizza or free sausage sitting there, I don't even know what you're thinking about.
Yeah. And, look, her name is Martha, most likely.
Oh, Martha's a good lady.
Martha knows her stuff. All right. So just get in there, talk to Martha, and just ask her where the coop's at.
Yeah. Martha with the coops. That's all you need to say. You walk up to Jonathan, who you see right away when you walk into the store. You say, Jonathan, where's Martha with the coops? He's going to point somewhere because Martha with the coops exists. So
she's there.
We're talking too much about this, Brian. we need to move on. We got a lot of football to talk about here. So who are we talking about? Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
Brandon Cooks, who has been out for the last couple of weeks with concussion, and the concussion protocol is likely to be available for Monday Night Football. And this is actually pretty important because Robert Woods has been out with some personal matters. And if that continues on into the weekend, this is something that, I mean, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, could be in line for some big workload coming out. I mean, coming back from that injury, the team has been a little bit different without him. They've been lacking the deep ball, that vertical threat on the team, and he could be something very beneficial to the team. All right, BroMob, that is going to be it for our news segment. Let's go ahead and jump right into our brand spanking new segment that might be a little beneficial for y'all.
Playoffs?
Oh, it's too much. It's
Best
too
drop
much.
Ever. So simple, yet so effective.
All right, BroMob. We're talking about the playoffs. Playoffs. And players that fantasy teams out there, the BroMob out there should be looking to acquire, hold on to, or even start in the coming weeks that are getting you to the playoffs or even in the playoffs. So, Brian, let's start it off with the quarterbacks. Who are some good ads at the quarterback position for the BroMob to go out there and kind of acquire, hold on to, or even just like kind of move towards, right?
All right, okay.
We're not doing that. Nope.
No, not doing it. Just kidding. So, look at quarterback. So what we're looking at specifically is what's the playoff schedule. So typical playoff schedule, what we look for is week 14, 15, and 16. So as we look at the schedule, there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks that really stand out amongst the rest that from a scheduling standpoint that look really, really favorable. They also have a good talent around them. There could be some opportunities for big games in the playoffs. So the first guy on this list, Chad, not been my favorite guy this year, but I could see him finishing strong, is the Cleveland Browns quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Now, he's going to finish the season week 14 against the Cincinnati Bengals, week 15 against the Arizona Cardinals, and then the championship game's a little rough for him. He plays the Ravens, but that could be a game where he's forced to throw the ball quite a bit. And so, they went into Baltimore and won that game. And so I don't see any reason why he, couldn't have a good game against Ravens defense to finish the season either. They may be wrapped up by that point. Another guy, Chad, who's actually, I think, one of my favorites amongst this group. I have him on my fantasy team in our League of Rec. I have him also in a few other leagues, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, Jameis Winston. And I get it. He's throws the ball erratically, turns the ball over a little bit, but look, he plays the Colts week 14. That's going to be a game where they're going to be forced to throw the ball. It's not a terrible matchup, but it's not a super favorable one, but it finishes really nice. So he's got the Lions, one of the worst against the pass, and the Texans, also one of the worst against the pass. So I like Jameis Winston to finish up the season, especially if you're a bye week team that's streaming quarterbacks like myself. You definitely want to look at Jameis Winston for those last 2 games, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And not to mention, Brian, he has thrown a lot of picks, but in the last 5 games in a row, Jameis Winston's thrown over 300 yards. He's the only quarterback in the league with that long of a stretch of games with 300 yards. So that's very impressive. I mean, he's getting points, subtracting points with those turnovers, but he's getting a lot of points on top of that. So I also like him. BroMob, we got a couple more players I want to mention here. We also got Ryan Tannehill, whose playoff schedule looks incredibly favorable. I mean, starts off with the Oakland Raiders there in week 14. Follows that up with the Houston Texans, the New Orleans Saints. It's a little bit of a nasty game. That defense can be a little bit scary. But the thing is, because the offense is so good, they kind of push a little bit of a shootout scenario for Ryan Tannehill. So he might be forced to throw the football, much like he had to do against Kansas City. So Ryan Tannehill, another good play there. Another quarterback that we really like, Jacoby Brissett. Playing against the Bucs, as we mentioned before, but then the Saints and the Panthers. He kind of, that last game against the Panthers, not looking too hot, but if he does get T.Y. Hilton back, look, his points haven't been there because he's been lacking his number one wide receiver threat for a few weeks now. If he gets T.Y. back, which he should at some point there in the playoffs, the big threat ability comes back. His top red zone option that he had before, even though how small T.Y. Hilton is crazy, but comes back. Things are looking good for Jacoby Brissett. And then finally, our last guy, Carson Wentz. He hasn't looked too hot these last few games, not going to lie. But his playoff schedule looks great. He's got the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins, and the Dallas Cowboys. All of those are not just good matchups for him, but they are also crucial games for the Eagles to make it into the playoffs. They need to win these games and to even stay relevant. Either the division title or even the wild card situation. I really like Carson Wentz, Brian. I know you kind of do too. He's had this bad season, but this playoff schedule is really nice.
Yeah, Chad, and look, the one thing I would say about the Cowboys game, so and even the Washington Redskins game, those last two games, the matchups don't look too bad, especially the Redskins game. The Cowboys game, he didn't play well against them, but they were in Dallas. They're on the road. They're going to be at home against the Cowboys in that game. The only thing that concerns me, and this is something we definitely have to keep eyes on during the playoff stretch, is going to be the weather. Look, they're in Philadelphia, week 16, and Philadelphia can get bitter cold. Winds can be pretty tedious, treacherous. No, treacherous is not a word. Trencherish. Not a word. I'll go with it anyway.
Treacherous, dude. That's a word. Not treacherous, not tedious. Yep. That's definitely not the word.
You can get snow, you can get rain. So all those things can drastically affect quarterback play, especially this late in the season. So just something to be cautious of if you're trying to get Wentz, you might want to have additional backups just in case.
All right, let's get into the running backs playoff schedules this week, BroMob. Starting off right away, these are two players that we recommend you try and go get. Because in all actuality, the price is a little bit low on one of the names, and the other one, the price is only going to go up. Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. That goes back to that Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield schedule. They're going against the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Ravens. Nick Chubb, though he's running well. I mean, he's still getting 20 carries in a game. He had 92 yards last week on the ground. He's got 1,000 yards on the season. Because Kareem Hunt is there, owners are getting a little worried because he hasn't been putting up those elite numbers these last couple weeks now with Kareem Hunt there. And so there's a little bit of angst. There's a little bit of fear that maybe Nick Chubb is now just a running back too. That is not the case. This playoff schedule is cake for both of them even. Kareem Hunt, Brian, we just looked at the statistic that made us kind of, our eyeballs kind of almost shoot out of our faces. He is tied for second on the team in these last 2 weeks for targets. He's got 17 targets, tied with Jarvis Landry. The only other one with more targets is Odell Beckham Jr. at 22. Kareem Hunt not only is going to start getting more carries in the game just to kind of keep Nick Chubb healthy for that possible playoff push that they want, but he's also just going to continue to get used in the passing game. They use him in the slot. They like to bring out both running backs at the same time to confuse defenses. This offense is a lot better now that Kareem Hunt is there. It's a little bit more unpredictable, which is something that it didn't have out throughout the season. I like both of them. Try to trade for one of them if you can.
Yeah, Chad. The only thing, again, I would caution and I actually think this is better for probably Nick Chubb and maybe even Kareem Hunt too in the screen game. But look, they finished the season. They're at home against Cincinnati. And then they're in Arizona, so that game is going to be in a dome. And then they finish the season at home against Baltimore. And so two games at home, one on the road. The one on the road is going to be indoors, so you got favorable conditions there. But that Bengals Ravens deal, again, weather can play an impact, especially if you're getting lake effect snow off the lake there in Cleveland. They're notorious for getting snow there that time of the year. So I think that actually helps their case a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I definitely think that helps their case. I mean, if they're being forced to not pass the ball, it helps the running game out. I mean, they have to try and control the clock then and try to control the game script in all actuality. So I really like both of them. Brian, I'm going to get into the next running back here because we're strapped on time. David Montgomery, though he hasn't been looking like an elite running back or just running back 2 or even a flex play for that matter, his playoff schedule looks cake as well, guys. He's playing against Dallas. He's got Green Bay and he's got Kansas City for his last 3 games. His playoff schedule there. Those are nice matchups, man, especially against, I mean, the Bears always play Green Bay tough, right? I mean, they may be out of it and they may not be looking good for the rest of the season, but they might play Green Bay tough because they always do. I really like David Montgomery for all 3 of these games. Even Dallas, I think that's going to be Dallas has been kind of up and down, right? They let running backs run all over them and then they don't. This is one of those matchups where I think David Montgomery could shine as the rookie running back and try to start to show, hey, I'm the guy that you want to invest in for the future. I know that there's a lot of offensive talent in this next draft, but I'm here to stay. I'm looking good, and I'm going to push and try and keep my spot on this team this coming season.
Yeah, and he's getting the carries now, which really bodes well for him. Again, going to be games in cold weather. They're home against Dallas, on the road in Green Bay, and then home against Kansas City. So 2 games at home to finish the season, and really not leaving the area. 2 games in Chicago, right. 1 in Green Bay. So I like Montgomery a lot. You know that. Chad, I'm gonna move on here. So running back for the Denver Broncos, Phillip Lindsay is another guy that really has a great schedule finishing up the season. Week 14 against the Houston Texans. Week 14, he's going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and then week 15, Kansas City Chiefs, and then week 16, the Detroit Lions. So those last 2 games, if you're a bye team, you're looking to kind of maybe find that good RB2. He might be a guy you want to target. The team has said that they're committing to him rest of the season, so that's already favorable on his end. And then you line the Kansas City Chiefs and the Lions up to finish the season. Yikes! So I like that schedule a lot. And another guy here on the list, Chad, is running back of the Patriots, Sony Michel. So this schedule might be the sickest of them all, to be quite honest, of all the ones that we've seen. Maybe the next one's not so bad either, but he's gonna week 14 against the Kansas City Chiefs, week 15 Cincinnati Bengals, back-to-back top worst. We're gonna go with it. Defenses against the run, and then he finishes in the championship game against the Bills. So another team that's been poor against the run, kind of middle of the pack, but on the other end. So, and then this last guy, or guys rather, Chad, Philadelphia Eagles running backs, Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. I know we were talking about this a lot before the pod started, but I really like Jordan Howard here. I'll let you speak on Miles Sanders a little bit, but man, I look at Jordan Howard's carries, his involvement in the running game. He's involved in the passing game, not as much as Miles Sanders, but still involved to a certain extent. Listen, I'm not going to just talk about the fantasy playoffs. I'm going to talk about week 13 going into the playoffs too. He finishes the regular season against Miami, then he draws the Giants, then he draws the Redskins, and then he finishes in the championship game against the Cowboys. So week 13, Dolphins, 14, first week of fantasy playoffs, Giants, 15, Redskins, 16, Cowboys. Man, I tell you, with a team like the Eagles that are going to be pushing to try to get into the playoffs or to win that division, I see Jordan Howard as a key component on that offense, and his usage, I think, is going to be very high. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And just to talk about Miles Sanders a little bit here, the team it's hurting at the wide receiver position. It's no secret there. And then the tight ends have been kind of up and down as well. So Miles Sanders has been kind of like that nice little go-to guy for Carson Wentz to just dump it off to. And because he is such an electric player, he's able to bust off things that should only be about 3 or 4 yards into 15, 20-yard carry gains. So I really like Miles Sanders. He has been seeing an uptick the last 3 weeks. I mean, Jordan Howard wasn't there this past week, so he got more carries. But the last 3 weeks, I mean, he's been seeing double-digit touches. So I like Miles Sanders. He's getting the opportunity to kind of show that burst, that electricity that he has in him. And I think with these definite playoff implications, I can't even say it, implications.
Yes.
Implications. Yep. That's the word. Yes. Those games that are coming up, that's going to be pushing for that playoff schedule for them. Miles Sanders, even Jordan Howard, I mean, getting some vulture touchdowns in there. Both of them are in a situation to shine. So I like both of them. All right, BroMob, that is our quarterbacks and running backs for the playoffs that we're looking to kind of acquire, to hold on to start coming up here. Next week, we are going to go over our wide receivers, our tight ends, and our defense special teams that you should be looking at. With that being said, let's move on with the show and get into our start and sits.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but it's all psychological.
All right, we're starting off, and we're eating our own advice here right away. I'm starting Baker Mayfield against the Miami Dolphins. It sounds like a duh moment, but Baker Mayfield is still, I mean, he's not widely owned in the league. Last week was the start of what I called that cake schedule. I think I called it a couple weeks ago. I'm like, hey, go pick up Baker Mayfield now because he's going to be one of those hot commodities coming up. And last week he put together a solid outing against a solid Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Baker didn't disappoint with that game. The lineup continues to become that matchup in paradise type of thing, and it starts off this coming week with the Miami Dolphins. FYI, BroMob, if you're wondering, Baker Mayfield hasn't thrown an interception in the last 3 weeks. I know he started the season off and he kind of threw it all over the place erratically, but he seems to be kind of settling down in the offense and settling down and becoming he's trying to become more of a leader. If you see what he's trying to do with the team is just trying to lead by example. So Baker's starting to get a little bit better with the ball, and I like this matchup against the Dolphins.
Yeah, Chad, so my start this week is quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan. He's going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are allowing the second most points to quarterbacks this season. You know, they're at home. Matt Ryan has historically played very well at home or indoors. And I think he's going to have a great game against the poor secondary of the Buccaneers. And a game that I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Falcons defense has really showed up here these last few weeks, oddly. And so I would like to say that in a game that could be a shootout, which that's what my gut tells me. But the other side of my gut says, well, maybe this Falcons defense has turned it around a little bit. So I don't know. I think they'll regress. I don't think a zebra doesn't change its stripes, in my opinion. So they've been terrible all year. I think they're just having a little bit of luck here the last couple of weeks. Ultimately, I think the Buccaneers are going to put up points. So I think Matt Ryan looks good this week.
All right, I'm going to talk about my sit here. I've got Aaron Rodgers against the 49ers. Look, Aaron Rodgers has kind of been all over the place this season. He's had some elite games. He's had some very big dud games for you. But this is one of those weeks where I'm leaning more towards the duds. He's going up against this scary good 49ers defense. He's not going to have much time to throw the ball, let alone even think about stuff. If you can, I know I am. I'm going to go ahead and avoid Aaron Rodgers if I can and just pick up somebody that might get me a little bit more than 15 points because Aaron Rodgers might not even be able to put that up this week.
Yeah, Chad, not a bad recommendation. I thought about it, but then there's another side of me that's like, God, it's Aaron Rodgers, primetime game. You know, so I get it, but you know, I don't disagree with it. I went a different direction. So quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen this week. They're at home against the Broncos. And again, look, I told you this Broncos defense is legit. I'm not gonna bet against them ever again this season. So I see the only bright side for Allen is his floor, I think, is going to keep him in the 7 to 10 points range at minimum because of his rushing abilities. But other than that, in the passing game, I'm not trusting a guy like Josh Allen against the Broncos in the passing game. Get out of here. So I think he's probably going to throw a few picks. This is going to be I see this as probably a low-scoring game, more of a defensive game. So not a big fan of Josh Allen this week.
The battle of the Allens. We got Brandon Allen. We got Josh Allen. not much going on with these Allens this week. I agree, Brian. All right, let's get into our running backs. Who are you starting this week, Brian?
Yeah, Chad, I've got the running back of the San Francisco 49ers, Tevin Coleman, going up against the Packers. They're at home, third straight game in a row at home for the 49ers. And, Coleman has been a little bit of a letdown lately, which, kind of caught me by surprise. I thought for sure he was going to get hot here, especially with the injury to Breida. But it just hasn't been the case. I don't know if it's just game plan or what. I mean, 49ers played the Cardinals last week. They just didn't look like themselves. They look kind of tired from that Seahawks game maybe. So I don't know. I think they kind of get it back on track here this week. They got the Packers, terrible against the run. They're one of the worst, I think third most against running backs this season. I think San Francisco's game plan is going to be very simple. Keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. And I think that bodes well for Tevin Coleman and the running game. I think they're going to run it.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I like him too. The Packers defense just allowing running backs to kind of do whatever they want to against them. But the guy that I really like this week, Le'Veon Bell, I've been talking about it for a while now. I've been ringing that bell, so to speak, for him. He's going up against the Raiders. He's kind of on that quote-unquote fantasy playoff bound tour that we kind of been talking about. He's another one of those running backs that's looking good for the fantasy playoffs. Look, Joe Mixon was able to run all over this team last week against what I believe to be the worst offensive line in the league, if not like the last 5 years. It's a terrible Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, and Mixon was able to put together a solid fantasy performance against them. Le'Veon Bell is going to be doing much better than Mixon against this team. They're traveling to New York. It's a nice matchup for him. I love Le'Veon Bell. Don't get him out of your lineups. Keep him in there because he's going to have a good solid week for you.
Chad, I like that pick too. And so I'm going to move on to sits here, and this is a big one. I mean, this is a big name for a sit for me.
It is.
Yeah. Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott against the Patriots. They're on the road, and I get it. If you're a Zeke owner, you're probably not going to be sitting Elliott, but I'm just saying you should be tempering your expectations, and you should temper them a lot. They're on the road. This is the top rushing defense in the league. Okay, probably. I don't think you can argue it's the best defense in the league. I think the 49ers are right behind them, but this is the best defense in the league. You got Bill Belichick. Make no mistake about it. He's planning to stop Zeke. I get it. Dak has been on fire this year. To my surprise, I did not expect this kind of season out of him. I just saw the other day, Chad, Dak Prescott's in the conversation for MVP right now.
Mm-hmm.
He leads the league in passing. I mean, it's unbelievable the seasons he had. Jerry Jones has got to be pulling his hair out. So, but look, I mean, if you're Bill Belichick, just look at what the Lions did last year. What was their game plan? Stop Zeke and stop Amari Cooper, right? If Dak Prescott's going to beat us, he's going to beat us with all these other guys, but he's not beating us with these two guys. Matt Patricia is a disciple of Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think for one second Bill Belichick's not watching that game going, okay, so they stop Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott was still able to move the ball. Zeke Elliott needs to be stopped. And so I see Zeke having a really tough game. I think he probably averages 2.8, maybe 3 yards a carry in this game. I don't think he gets in the end zone. That's just my opinion. So I don't like Zeke this week. I get it. If you're a Zeke owner, you're probably not going to sit him anyway. You got to roll him out there. You drafted him in the first round. I understand. Just temper your expectations.
Yeah, I hear it. It's a tough one, but I'm on the same boat. I was very tempted to put his name here too. So gutsy call there, Brian. I'm going with another guy who's been a top running back this year, Chris Carson. And I've put him in this column before, and he's made me look silly before. But Chris Carson is going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who, like the Patriots, is just one of the nastiest rush defenses in this league. And it's going to be hard for Chris Carson to get anything going. He might get all the carries because he always does. He get all those touches and stuff, but the only thing that I see saving his day is a touchdown. But I'd rather bank against the safer bets that are out there that kind of play these other players other than Chris Carson, because if I'm banking on a touchdown for a player and his yardage is terrible, I'm going to have a bad week from him. So I'm staying away from Chris Carson if I can. I'm probably going to eat my words because he's made me do it before, but I just don't trust him against this Eagles defense. Let's move into the wide receivers. I'm going to stick with the same game because Chris Carson is having a bad week doesn't mean that nobody else gets to have a good week against this Eagles defense. Tyler Lockett, and this is a big caveat because he needs to play, but it's looking more optimistic, like he's definitely going to be playing this week. Pete Carroll's out there talking about it. The team is out there talking about it. So if he plays, Tyler Poppin' Lockett is going to absolutely explode against this Eagles defense. Look, I'm so confident in it that I'm making him my solid gold start of the week, Bro Mob. I love this dude. If you have him, don't even think about flex consideration. Don't even think about it. He is a wide receiver 1 this week. He's going to have a great week. Big touchdown potential, big yardage potential, lots of targets there. I love him. Keep him in your lineups.
I mean, I'm happy about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love me some Poppin' Lockett. So Poppin' Lockett's hot. Poppin' Lockett's hot. Chad, I'm gonna roll out one of the guys that we've loved him so much lately, Chad, that we had to shut some stuff down. I mean, it got too excited. The world got a little excited there for a bit.
Things got a little too sexy.
Yeah, it got really sexy, and we got called out. So we don't have a drop for him anymore. But we can still celebrate his name, and that's the also smooth, also sexy, Kenny Golladay, Kenny G, the Detroit Lions wide receiver on the road against the Redskins. It's a middle of the pack defense versus a monster of a wideout, Chad. Kenny G should be primed, locked and loaded and primed for a big bounce back game here. He had a rough game last week against Cowboys. I think he's going to have a great game. Roll him out with confidence. Get that smooth, that sexy Kenny G in your lineup.
I love the smoothness. Love me some Kenny G, Brian. Let's get into our sits here to kind of finish everything up. I'm starting the sit. That's what I meant to say. Starting the sit.
Yes.
I'm struggling here. DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. Kyle Allen is starting to just kind of... It's almost looking like he's starting to just dwindle. I don't know what it is. These last few weeks, he's throwing picks galore. He's not doing much. DJ Moore has at least been, really stepping it up. He's getting crazy amounts of targets, getting a lot of yardage. He's looking good. I really like him as a wide receiver prospect, especially going forward. If you're in dynasty leagues, I think he's definitely one of those considerations for like top 12, top 10 even in dynasty. But going up against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, I don't care if he's a target monster. It doesn't mean he's going to get a lot of catches with those targets. This defense is ball hawking. They're able to shut down opposing wide receivers pretty much at will, especially at home. So DJ Moore, let's say he even gets a lot of those catches. I don't see a lot of yardage coming out of it, not a lot of yards after the catch opportunity against this defense. And he's got a hard week coming this way, and I'm looking to sit him. I'm not even going to keep him in the flex and keep things rolling there. So keep DJ Moore on your bench. It's going to be a tough week for him.
That was a lot of information about a guy like DJ Moore, Chad.
Oh yeah,
that's a lot of insight.
I'm here to help.
A little too hot for the hot tub. Ow! Burn me. Too hot. Look, I'll tell you else who's been a little too hot. You might want to cool him off this week. Sit him on the bench. That's Cowboys wide receiver Amari Cooper. Kind of plays into my last pick. But look, again, I'm telling you, Bill Belichick's he had his binoculars out sitting up there in the crowd against that Cowboys game. He was spying on him. And I think he's going to look at this and he's going to say, hey, shut this guy down. He got shut down last week, 38 yards on the day. And I see kind of pretty much the same. If I were you, find other options. And Chad, what in the world are you doing? What are your eyeballs doing? Oh, God. If only Bro
yeah, I agree, Brian. I just a little bit of foreshadowing. I allude to this same player later on in the podcast. So let's move on, Bro Mob. That is our start and sits for the week. If you want to check these out on paper, come back to and revisit them. Check us out on keytothetitle.com to see all of our start and sit recommendations and so much more. Let's move on to our sleepers.
Sleepers.
All right, Bro Mob, I'm starting it off with a big name that usually wouldn't be a sleeper back in the day, but because he's been kind of moved around and now he's on a new team, definitely considered one. Josh Gordon against the Eagles. I'm sticking with this Seahawks-Eagles game because I like what I'm seeing here. I love this matchup against this incredibly poor secondary of the Eagles. And Josh Gordon was actually targeted quite often, especially when Tyler Lockett went down last week. And a big one that he was targeted on were third downs. Russell Wilson doesn't target you on third downs if he doesn't trust you. Josh Gordon had already pulled in that trust from Russell Wilson. I like the matchup. I also like the opportunity for a couple of deep attempts for Flash Gordon, and just one of them possibly connecting for a big touchdown. So Josh Gordon could get himself a 60-yard touchdown and have a good week, and I like the possibility of that happening.
Yeah, Chad, it's not a bad pick. I'm going to go a little bit a different direction. This is a Josh Gordon on a good offense. This next guy, not so good of an offense, but he has been on a little bit of a tear lately, and that's wide receiver Jamison Crowder. I just realized I typoed it. Crowder is what it
I'm glad that you read it right, not like Ron Burgundy. Damn it. He reads everything that's on the prompter.
That's right. Jamison Crowder, wide receiver for the New York Jets. They're at home against the Raiders. He's only 70% owned actually out there as well, Bromob. So there's likelihood that he might be out there still. And like I said, this guy's been on a tear lately. I think he's going to have another really great game against a poor Raiders defense and a team that in the Jets that's likely to have to throw the ball. And it seems like he's building a little bit of rapport with the quarterback. So I really like Crowder this week.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. I think the big thing here is the fact that Sam Darnold likes to throw to those dump-off guys. So Ryan Griffin, you're kind of seeing him kind of rise because Chris Herndon got hurt, so now they have a tight end. And then Jamison Crowder right there in the middle of the field. He loves to throw it to those guys. So I like this pick a lot, actually. I didn't see it in here before until now. I actually really like this pick.
Is his name pronounced Crowder or Crowder?
Crowder.
Crowder. Jamison Crowder.
All right, Bromob, let's get into our busts.
Busts.
Bromob, his name's already been said, and I wasn't quite ready to call him a sit, but you know what, Brian, I'm with you. I am not only calling him a bust, but I do think he's a sit this week. I'm keeping him on the bench. Amari Cooper in New England against the Patriots. Look, he had a bad week last week, and I definitely see that frustration continuing against this very good Patriots defense. I understand it's really hard to sit a stud wide receiver, especially a guy who's a top 5 guy at the position, right? But just remember that if you started him last week, he probably ruined your week. You probably got a loss because of that terrible game that he had. In a time where we're fighting for the playoffs, right? There's a lot of teams. I'm in a lot of leagues. Brian, you are too. There's a lot of leagues that I'm in, very competitive. The records are very close. There's not really that many teams that are just like out of it, right? Everyone's kind of fighting this year because of all the injuries that have happened. It's kept things kind of even. Every game matters. And so if you're starting Amari Cooper and he puts up another dud for you, not only is that possibly a loss for you this week, but it might be pushing you out of the playoff picture. And so it's a big bet to play him. I don't like this defense, and I do not see a good week from him this week.
Are you saying that Amari Cooper could lay an Amari Pooper?
Yeah, a big O Amari Pooper right in your lineup, and nothing stinks more than an Amari Pooper.
No, yeah, you don't want none of that poo. All right, Chad, I'll tell you another guy that might be stinky this week, and that is running back of the, almost said St. Louis. Wow. Running back of the LA Rams, Todd Gurley. Look, they're at home against the Ravens, and Todd Gurley's been really up and down this year. Definitely fit the bill of what we said he might be this year, which is a bust relative to his draft capital that you had to pay. And so, and I think he's been absolutely that. He is no way, shape, or form has he produced like you would have hoped he would have produced where you drafted him, unless you got him in like the 3rd round. But that's not where you drafted him. He most likely went in the 1st round, maybe at the turn in the 2nd. So, he's been very up and down this year, and I just think this might be one of those sell high points, not only just for Todd Gurley for the week, just saying sell high, sit him, don't roll him out there, but you might be able to move him. Maybe add him with another player and go grab one of those guys that we talked about earlier in the podcast for the playoff run. But, the Ravens are a tough defense to play against. I see them focusing on Todd Gurley quite a bit to shut him down and saying, hey, look, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us with Jared Goff. And so I think there are definitely better options out there at running back this week. I would urge you to find one.
Yeah, I kind of like that too, Brian. Todd Gurley, though he's been seeing some more carries, some more touches, this is not a good matchup. I do not like it. So,
Chad, here's a question for you. Would you? I mean, I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but would you put Todd Gurley with maybe a wide receiver, like let's say who'd be a good mid-range wide receiver that we could pick on?
That we can pick on, or
kind of middle of the road wide receiver. Like let's say Kenny Golladay. I don't know. I mean, Galladay's been pretty solid this year, actually.
Keenan Allen.
There you go. So would you, if you were the David Montgomery owner and somebody offered you Gurley and Keenan Allen, would you take it?
Ooh, the name value is nice.
I know, that's the thing. So if you're the David Montgomery guy, Montgomery might not be. I mean, like I have him. He's my third back. So he might be one of those guys. If you can go get, I would trade Gurley and I don't know, Keenan Allen could blow up the rest of the season. But I mean, a guy, maybe you don't do that. Maybe Todd Gurley and a different wide receiver. If you could couple him with somebody and go get David Montgomery or go get a Phillip Lindsay or a Sony Michel and upgrade. I hate to say it, I actually look at all three of those running backs as upgrades over him.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, understand that you probably shouldn't pair those two together to get the only one player, right? I mean, you should try to go for 2 for 2. Just like a swap of players, because it's over Trade Central still. They still have value to them. They still have that name value. I understand that you're definitely going to upgrade your team with these players that have a much better matchup, playoff schedule with matchups than Todd Gurley. But at the same time, don't undersell him, because he is Todd Gurley. He still has a name. He is Keenan Allen. He is whoever it is. They still have name value. So if you can pair David Montgomery with somebody that is getting used, let's say, for example, John Brown. John Brown just had this huge week, but it doesn't, and it kind of boosted his fantasy value there. But John Brown's been kind of solid all season. He's had at least 80 yards at least 70 yards, in every game that he's played in this year. He's had a really good season. So John Brown, solid floor. We saw his ceiling. If you can pair him with like a David Montgomery or pair him with a Phillip Lindsay, it's not the sexy names, but they get you wins.
I'll tell you right now, something you might want to be really considering is, I mean, if you're the Stefon Diggs owner and you happen to have somehow you happen to have Todd Gurley as well, and you're listening right now, that might be your pairing, because I get it. Diggs has been on fire these last few weeks, but Thielen's coming back. And when Thielen comes back, I think that changes a bit. And so I don't see that continuing. And I think if you can move Diggs, and Chad, just to add on to what you said, I don't want to get too long-winded here. I know we got a lot to talk about to finish up our streamers, but I think this is really important. You talked about doing a 2 for 2 trade. I actually think you could do a 2 for 1 trade. And go grab one of these guys, because even in that scenario, you're likely grabbing a guy off the waivers to fill that extra empty spot. So it's not truly a 2 for 1 trade. It's a 2 for 1 and a waiver, and you're going to add a guy off of waivers. And we're talking about quite a few people. There's some value still out there on the waiver wire that you could add. You could go add Raheem Mostert or something like that off of the waiver wire. Add him Williams in there. All of a sudden, Tevin Coleman goes down to an injury. During the playoffs, you've got a guy. Yeah, Jamal Williams, another great ad. So you could go grab some handcuffs and hope that. I mean, not hope that, but if one of your competitors or your league mates guy goes down, now you've got a starting running back on a prolific offense. So I like to think outside the box there. I'm a little different in that aspect, and I think too at this point in the season, if you overtrade, does it really matter? There's 2 regular season games left. If you're trying to get into the playoffs, get into the playoffs. If you're going to get into the playoffs, then you've got 5 games left. So, at this point, it's not like you have the entire season ahead of you,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Make the moves now, because this is what's going to make a difference for your team. So,
absolutely.
All right, Bromob, that is our sleepers, our busts, everything that we got going on there. Let's move into our streaming options for the week.
This week's streamers.
Starting off with the quarterbacks, as always, Bromob, I've got Jimmy Garoppolo going against the Green Bay Packers. He's only owned in 58% of ESPN or in 58% of leagues. And Jimmy G just had himself a week, man. Absolute great week for him. And he seems to be getting a little bit more comfortable in his comeback season, right? I mean, he was coming off of an injury, so it's okay for him to kind of come in and start the season off slow and get kind of reacclimated into the NFL after such a big injury. So it's looking like he's starting to get comfortable in the league, starting to get really good here with this offense. I look for him to fight against Aaron Rodgers, though Rodgers might not have a good week. I definitely see him to try and do one up with him and try to win this game and be the team that continues to lead the conference in first place, because whoever wins this game takes over first place in the NFC. So big implications for this game. I really like Jimmy G to just hold his own and do very well this week.
Yeah, Chad, not a bad pick. I like Garoppolo, maybe even rest of season, to be quite honest, but definitely this week against that Packers defense. Chad, all right, my quarterback this week, he's this is no pushover, Chad. Okay, this is no schmuck. As a matter of fact, Chad, I think there's something that needs to go down here. That's right, Bro Mob. This week's quarterback is my rock solid, gold plated, diamond crested, Arnold screaming stream of the week. And that is quarterback Jacoby Brissett of the Indianapolis Colts. He is on the road against the Texans. And look, here's the deal. Back in week 7, he played Houston at home, 27.6 points on the day. It was the best game of the season so far, 326 yards passing on 26 completions, 4 touchdowns. I don't see him having 4 touchdowns again, but he is capable of doing that against this defense. Absolutely. So I like him again this week as a streamer. He is available in roughly half of ESPN leagues out there, so should be out there on the waivers. If he is, grab him, feel confident, get him in your lineup.
Yeah, I like that pick, Brian. Let's get into our tight ends here. Brian, who you got this week for your stream at tight end?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had him out here a couple times, and I'm actually, Chad, I'm still baffled at how he's still this available. But that is tight end Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's at home against the Seahawks. This is a defense that is pretty poor against the tight end, and he's available he's only rostered rather in 28.3% of ESPN leagues. That means that he is roughly roughly available in 72% of ESPN leagues, Chad. That's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. So it's likely he's out there. His only Achilles heel these last few weeks is he's getting less targets than he was earlier in the season. But look, at the end of the day, that makes him a little bit more of a risk, but you could find a lot worse plays out there than Dallas Goedert, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with that math that you did real quick there, that 72%.
Thank you.
Well done. Proud of you.
Yes. What I did is I rounded the 28% to 30, and then I said, how much is 30 off of 100? And that was a 70. And then you go backwards. You go, oh, well, there's 2 more. 72.
Thank you for helping us through logical math equations. Arithmetic. Thank you. Bro Mob, I've got Jacob Hollister going up against the Eagles. Again, I'm sticking with this Seahawks-Eagles game. I really like it. Really like Hollister, too. Not the store, because it smells way too much like cologne. Whenever you even walk by it, it gives you a headache. But Hollister, the player, really like him. He's only owned in 15.2% of ESPN leagues. And listen, Russ Wilson has started to grow confidence with this guy. And he had a lot of confidence with his previous tight end and a guy named Will Dissly. And he appears to be just kind of getting a connection with Jacob Hollister. I mean, in the last 2 weeks that they've played, he's had 12 catches on 16 targets for 99 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are stats that I like to hear. Not only is he getting the points like the yardage and the touchdowns, but he's getting those targets. That's what I really like out of a tight end, especially one that I like to stream. So Jacob Hollister, very juicy matchup here. I like him a lot. And Russ Wilson likes him a lot, so get him in your lineups. All right, Bro Mob, let's get into our defensive streams of the week and finish this show up. All right, I'm starting it off. Titans versus Jaguars. I don't know how this is happening, but they're a top 15 defense in scoring this year on fantasy football, and they're only owned in 32.9% of leagues. I don't understand. This team, the Jaguars, that is, looked a little bit different with Nick Foles at the helm. A little less explosive, a little less more in control of that offense. And that's because Foles looks rusty. I mean, he's been out for most of the season. Makes sense. I expected it to take a little bit more than 1 week for him to get back into the swing of things. And one thing that has been plaguing this offense for the last few weeks, the last couple of weeks here, are sacks and turnovers. And so that could once again become a thing that's in the forecast for this defense that's coming up to play against them. Their offensive line has given up 6 sacks in the last 2 games played. Lots of interceptions. They've had 5 interceptions in the last 2 games as well. And the Titans love the blitz. So I like the Titans against the Jaguars. Get some sack points, get some turnover points, little points being scored against them. It's a nice matchup.
Lots of points. I like it.
Points.
Yeah, my defensive stream of the week this week is the Oakland Raiders on the road against the Jets. And so only owned in 32% of ESPN leagues out there, Chad. I like the potential here. Look, Sam Darnold has really been tossing it around lately. A lot of interceptions, a lot of bad decisions. And I think the Raiders have potential for a lot of interceptions, maybe even one the opposite direction this coming week. And so I like them on the road here against the poor Jets offense that is struggling to really find an identity. And I think the Raiders and John Gruden really take advantage of that. John Gruden, clearly the better coach. I think Raiders win the game, and I also think the defense shows up.
And BroMob, you might be thinking it's contradictory for Brian to say Raiders against Jets when I've said Le'Veon Bell's going to have a good week. This is something that I said last week. I chose the Raiders last week. They had a really good defensive outing against the Bengals, but at the same time, Joe Mixon was able to get a touchdown, get a lot of yardage, have a good game. One player doesn't determine the outcome of an entire defense's scoring. So Le'Veon Bell could have a good week. Jamison Crowder could have a good week. But this defense, if they're able, like Brian said, to take something back to the house, changes the whole outcome of the game.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, BroMob. Well, that's going to do it for this week's show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Wednesday. We promise we'll be back next Tuesday to stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football leagues.
Yeah, absolutely, BroMob. And make sure you get over to thefantasyfootballbros.com for our weekly starts and sits. We post those up on the website and also at keytothetitle.com. That is our weekly system where we kind of go through our starts, sits, busts, all kinds of information, waiver stuff. So there's all kinds of goodies in there. Keytothetitle.com. Create a free account. It's completely free. And get in there and play around. You'll like it.
If you're not listening to us on Apple Podcasts, maybe you're on YouTube or somewhere else, understand that you can definitely listen to us pretty much everywhere. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcast. We're on Stitcher. We're on TuneIn. We're on iHeartRadio. If you can think of a podcast host, that's where we are. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast. And as Brian said a little bit ago, thefantasyfootballbros.com. Check that out for all kinds of articles, rankings, and so much more. We're going to see you next week, BroMob.
Bye, everybody. Get those dubs.